Hey guys, Crypto Sunday, and it's a slightly green week, just under 1%. So it's been all over the place, to be honest. We've had the crypto conference sort of ongoing, and the Trump speech last night, which I will come to. But yeah, let's have a look at some news. So, CoinShares reports from 5 days ago show $1.35 billion of inflow. Sort of knew that was going to happen. We've seen not a lot of outflow from Grayscale, as we know. Bitcoin sort of with the main inflows, but Ethereum with $45 million. The multi-asset fund, $16 million. So nice to see sort of money trickling into the smaller coins from sort of more official channels. 9.6 million into Solana, that's pretty good. A little bit into Binance, 2.2 million into Litecoin, a bit strange. A little into XRP, a little out from short Bitcoin, and then some of the others. Country-wise, an unfortunate outflow from Brazil. You don't see it too often, but yeah, not too bad. Some sort of single figures from pretty much everyone else except Switzerland. $66 million into Switzerland, so interesting. Looking at the more recent stuff, so we have the first week of the Ethereum flows, and it's sort of been slightly more aggressive than some people thought. I think it's pretty much on the money as I thought, with the Grayscale main fund being 2.5% fee. That's a little ridiculous. Don't really understand the idea of putting. I think they've put 10% of the assets into this new fund at 0.15%, but it's 10% of the assets. You know, if 90% of your assets are at 2.5% fee, then you're selling. So, yeah, they started at 9.2 billion. They've had sort of 480 million, 326 million, 346, 356. So constant sort of 3 to 400 million for 4 days, and the others have not been able to make up that outflow. A lot of this we sort of knew was people speculating on the discount, so betting that Ethereum was going to get an ETF rather than sort of actually wanting to hold Ethereum. Whether it's sort of people in the know or, people doing, you can sort of buy this ETF and short futures and that sort of thing and play the discount. So yeah, now that the ETF is here and it's, one-to-one with net asset value, then they just sell and they're not, selling and buying the BlackRock one, for example. But yeah, BlackRock's getting some inflows, Fidelity's getting some inflows. And Bitwise, interestingly, is getting some inflows. 265 million for the week. So, being a tiny, tiny little fund, them being third seems a massive achievement, really. But yeah, overall, obviously, it's still net outflow. We're going to see this for a little bit. 9.2 billion of Ethereum on Grayscale is a hell of a lot. Moving over to Bitcoin, for the week, we saw a massive start on Monday for BlackRock, 526 million in. Nobody really sort of came out and gave a reason for this. A bit strange, not any sort of big flows from anyone else, and fairly muted outflow from Grayscale for the week. Obviously, they have been seeing the odd inflow with people presumably buying the cheap fund, although this does say GBTC. I haven't really sort of got to the bottom of whether this is just people buying GBTC because it's sort of highly liquid, it's got a lot of volume, but it does seem absolutely bonkers. It is smaller than BlackRock's fund now, so I don't know why you wouldn't just buy that. It seems strange. But yeah, BlackRock sort of, even after that huge Monday, still getting sort of double figures every day, so that's pretty good. So moving on to the conference, you have to look at that sort of somewhat gormless face. Trump's keynote speech, there's a little sort of decent summary here. He said day one he would terminate Gary Gensler and appoint a new SEC chairman. Got a standing ovation for that and said, I didn't realise he was that unpopular. And said, all right, I will repeat it just for clarity. He will terminate Gary Gensler's appointment. I don't think this was sort of a massive surprise, really. It got a standing ovation, but Gensler's a Democrat. I think even if Bitcoin didn't exist, he would be terminating Gary Gensler and putting in a Republican because he is allowed to do that. So, yeah, I think people are just happy to see sort of Gary go, but I don't think he needed to sort of keynote the conference to say that. Shutting down Operation Choke Point 2 is kind of interesting. I'm not sure how he would sort of do that. That seems to be a bank-led thing, but is sort of overseen, I think, by people like Elizabeth Warren. So maybe if she doesn't win her seat, even if she does win her seat, obviously as president, you can, talk her down. He will appoint a Bitcoin and crypto presidential advisory council. So hopefully some sort of industry people getting in and sort of people with a bit more knowledge than the Bitcoin anti-Bitcoin army. Council will design transparent guidelines for the industry. Hopefully, sort of update the securities regulations to include crypto specifically, or create some new legislation. I think people would rather, even if it isn't, all that positive, they would just rather have certainty, to be honest. He said this before, no central bank digital currency. He sort of opposed that for a long while. And then the 210,000 Bitcoin, this was sort of one of the main things people were keen to hear him say. He will order the Treasury not to sell the Bitcoin holdings and make it as the core of the US Strategic National Bitcoin Stockpile. And I think from memory he called it a national asset, sort of not wanting to quite call it a strategic reserve asset. Maybe he meant to say that, I don't know. But I believe Senator Loomis sort of put forward a potential bill to make it a strategic reserve asset, sort of indicating that they might end up, buying some rather than just holding what they've got. Obviously, 210,000 Bitcoin is exactly 1% of the Bitcoin total supply once it's all mined. But yeah, sort of a little bit wishy-washy, but couldn't have hoped for too much more than that. He said they wouldn't sell it, and he sort of hinting that they could maybe buy some, but not sort of going quite that far. And then commute the sentence of Ross Ulbricht to time served. So not a pardon, obviously, but just saying that his sentence is over. So he's the Silk Road founder. Some people maybe say he should spend that much in prison, but yeah, I think if you create a website, you're not sort of in charge of what people then use it for. You probably could have seen it coming, I suppose, but yeah, to have him sort of on a what is it, like basically more than a triple murder sentence, life in prison without parole, seems a little bit strange just for setting up a website. But yeah, that was sort of the conference. I think it hit all the points on the bingo card. A lot of people saying he's been advised by David Bailey from Bitcoin Magazine, so you could expect that parts of this speech were essentially written for him. And it does seem that in response to sort of not just the keynote, obviously, but sort of general sentiment turning more positive towards the Republicans, people are pushing for Kamala Harris to reset the crypto stance of the Democrats. She's had what I'm guessing is an open letter from 28 Democrat officials, including a dozen or so members of the House, pressing party leaders for a reset on crypto policy. Some factions of the party are pressing Harris to come out in favour of crypto, and I wasn't aware that she's got sort of a Silicon Valley, California background. She's obviously a lot younger than President Biden, so yeah, there's potential that she could sort of come out positive, and sort of if she comes out particularly positive, then it would sort of kill Trump's, maybe not kill his policy, but would weaken his policy of being the president to vote for crypto. If they were both positive, then it becomes a bipartisan issue, and there'd be no reason to sort of specifically vote for him unless you think, Harris wouldn't sort of follow through with her policies. Obviously, everyone's going back on the history now. Harris has apparently, in private, according to sources, which always makes you think it's just complete bullshit, but has supposedly called Bitcoin money for criminals. Trump, back in sort of his tenure, called Bitcoin a scam and sort of various other things, and said, the dollar is the currency of America. We shouldn't be having Bitcoin. I'm guessing if we asked him, he would probably just say that he's open-minded and, open to change, and he's listened to intelligent people and all that sort of thing. But yeah, it's obviously a policy flip-flop, as it's being called, but everyone seems happy with it. And we have another Q2 Masari report for Polygon. It's quite interesting. I sort of have had Polygon on the potential sell pile for a little while, but then they sort of come out with this very sort of, well, fairly mixed report. Some good in there, some very good, some not so good. Revenue is down, sort of fairly down, sort of 11.3 million. Revenue sort of trending down, I would say. 4 million, 6.8, 8.4, 5.1 in Q3, and 11.3 in Q2 last year. Transaction fees coming down, presumably because there's sort of less transactions. 4.1 million transactions, it has been a little lower, it's been a little higher, but up on last year. Maybe they're just sort of improving the tech a little bit. Daily active addresses, though, 1.2 million, up from 813,000 and 372,000 in Q4 last year. From what I understand, this is largely being driven by Polymarket, so people, very positive about that. Obviously, there's very little sort of moat to it. Anybody can basically start up one of these websites for sort of gambling on chain, basically. But network effects, people could say anyone can start up a competitor to Apple, but it doesn't mean you're going to sort of sell more phones than them, however good your phone is. Network effects do, have an effect. But then, weekly active core devs sort of dropping significantly. You basically see it 30% a quarter, sort of 504 down to 352, 229 and 165 this quarter. Maybe they don't need core devs. Maybe you don't need 165 core devs for a layer 2 to Ethereum, but it's not great to see. 700 devs last year down to 165. DeFi, sort of pretty much the same. Stable coins slightly rising, 1.8 billion. And average daily gaming addresses, so there are games as well, it's not just Polymarket, 382,000, up from 206 and 12 in Q4 2023. So, in just 6 months, they're up, well, last quarter was 1,600%, and then it's almost doubled since then. So, as I say, some bad stuff in there, but some stuff that you would think, well, you just can't sell. This I thought was really interesting. So you can see new addresses in green here, making transactions. It's sort of fairly steady, expanding sort of slightly in Q2, as you can see, a little bit in Q1. But the purple is returning addresses. So it would sort of indicate that all of these new green people that create an address don't go away, because the purple would be those green people continuing to use their wallet. So it's not as if they're sort of doing 1 or 2 transactions or, even a month's worth and getting bored. This is continued use and sort of really kicked off in Q1 actually, but has just continued up and up and up. So that's very good. 1 million returning addresses. So there you go. I stand corrected. Gaming, they're saying, is the sort of driver for a fair bit of this in the last quarter or two. This is sort of Q1 as well. Um, yeah, the leading sector by activity. Proof of stake addresses per sector. So gaming is very, very high. Wallet transfers. Don't know if I'm not sure where Polymarket is represented here. Possibly wallet transfers. Stablecoin activity sort of slowing, it looks like a little, and then sort of DeFi and infrastructure fairly low. But it's a gaming chain, although you can sort of see, certainly in July, it's taken quite a turn. It's sort of a new low, basically, the lowest it's been since this rise on sort of late February time. So don't know if we've got maybe a little bit of negative coming for Q3. Not going to get that until the next 3 months, but yeah, certainly good for the last sort of, well, year to date, really. Yeah, so a few useful stats in here as well. Obviously, the DeFi TVL that is on the summary is in US dollars, and the sort of coin hasn't done particularly well in Q2, so it is at $1 billion, down from 1.3, and it's sort of hovering around the same point it's been. But DeFi TVL in Matic is up at 1.8 billion, so. It's basically just, it's a price thing. The actual amount of Matic is at a high. It was 1.7 billion for 2 quarters last year, and is now at 1.8. So not too bad. DeFi diversity is half of what it was though, so that's not ideal. Total value borrowed is high. DEX volume sort of similar to where it was last year, really. NFTs though, $1.8 million. Daily sales 52,000. That's about the same, but volume is slightly higher. Gaming addresses, as I say, 382,000, and gaming transactions 892,000. So that's where an enormous amount of this volume is coming. Never really thought Polygon was particularly gaming focused, but there you go. So in summary, there is a fair amount going on. Not a lot of mention of Polymarket in here, which is surprising. It's a fairly big use case for them, but it seems gaming is sort of a fairly big focus. But I did sell Cardano because there was nothing going on, it seems, the more I sort of looked into it. And yeah, you certainly can't say that about Polygon. So it's a smaller holding, but I think I have to just leave it as it is. So coins for the week. It actually is sort of a fairly red week for pretty much everything but Bitcoin and Solana. So Bitcoin's up 1.33%, sort of holding its own. Has sort of come back in the last few days. Solana though is up 7.8%. I haven't really seen a load of significant news. I think it's just sort of things in general, a lot of use and a lot of bullishness. Ethereum is down 7.2%, obviously partly off the back of Grayscale, hell of a lot of selling, and just not a huge amount of other sort of bullish drivers. Chainlink down 3.6%. XRP is up 3.6%, often seems to buck the trend, and I've been very, very close to hitting the sell button at the moment. You can sort of pretty much think of whatever it is in cents is the fully diluted market cap. So 60 cents is $60 billion fully diluted market cap, and sort of $60 billion. I'm not sure I can see it sort of doing a 10x as I'm looking for in the options. The thought of XRP at $600 billion doesn't exactly have me confident, especially as they're still selling a billion tokens every month. So yeah, it's still on the sell pile. Power Ledger 2.68% in the red, Audius 7.5%, Internet Computer 5.5%, Polygon down 3%. Can't get a break, even though the numbers look fairly good. Gala 8.18%, Quant 2.5%, Basic attention token 1.7% down. VeChain 7.7% down. So, as I say, everything down except Bitcoin, Solana, and XRP. But yeah, let me know what you guys are up to. If you're buying anything, or if you're just sort of waiting for next year. See how we go. So, leave your thoughts in the comments below, and like and subscribe. See you soon.